The fear of competition, the Disney way, exploding kittens, and Mediterranean Quinoa Salad. Stick around!
Welcome to Business Edge Radio, the show that gives you tips, tricks, tools, and techniques about how to build a more profitable business, while at the same time creating your perfect lifestyle. It's a show about working less and living more. A few golden nuggets, a little bit of wisdom, and over 35 years of business experience to help you keep your edge. Lifestyle entrepreneur, best-selling author, internationally renowned business speaker, and daddy of three, Mitch Graff brings the heat with actionable techniques for building the business and lifestyle of your dreams. Now your host, Mitch Graff.
Good day, Unleashed Tribe, and welcome to another fast-paced edition of Business Edge Radio, the ultimate brainstorming session for your business and your life. I am your handsomely good-looking host, Mitch Graff, and on today's show, we're going to be diving into why it's so important that you understand your competition intimately and why we're so afraid of it. I take you on a short trip through a book about the Disney way of customer service. I share some stories about atrocious experiences and a couple of stories that will put a smile on your face. And my recipe today is for a tasty Mediterranean quinoa salad that you will want to stick around for. Fear. Fear of the dark. Fear of ghosts and spirits. Fear of deep water. Fear of heights. Fear of the girls saying no. Fear of death. Fear of the number 13. Yep, that's a thing. Fear of the relief pitcher for your favorite team giving up a homer in the bottom of the ninth inning. And the fear of competition, whether it's the competitor down the road, across town, or online. There's also competition for who gets the best parking spots at the grocery store, who gets to be first in line when the new register opens up, or competition from the employee sitting in the cubicle next to you in your office. Our lives are filled with elements of competing, wanting to end up higher on the totem pole than others. And along with that comes a fear of the unknown. If you are or were an athlete of any kind, you have an intimate understanding of what competition means. And having a healthy dose of that competitive spirit inside of you is what separates good from great and catapults you to the top of the food chain. As an athlete, the ones who are on top are there for a reason and have several things in common. They tend to have a more structured approach to their workouts. They have daily habits that feed right into their mental approach for reaching just a little bit farther than others, and they crave competition. They realize that competing against others is what truly motivates them to dig deeper, try harder, and want to win. In the sport of professional business, the same dynamics are at play, and it's incumbent upon you to have or to develop that competitive spirit. If I were to tell you that you were going to coach a basketball team in the championship game, even if you know nothing about the sport, what would be on your list of things that you would do in order to get ready for the game? Well, first you need to learn about the strengths of each one of your players, their weaknesses, their ability to fit into a team. And then you'd have to learn about how the team performs together, which will give you a whole new list of strengths and weaknesses that your team possesses. Then you need to run the same analysis on the team you will be playing against. What strengths and weaknesses do they have? What their tendencies are? What style of offense and defense do they run? What happens when they're trailing in the game or winning big? What about the coach? What are his or her strengths or weaknesses? And how does that stack up against your own personal list? If you prepared your team this way, I guarantee that it would be a very, very good game. So why is it that we don't prepare our own businesses in the same way? Well, it's that fear. We're afraid that we won't stack up. We're afraid that we aren't as good as others. We're afraid that we might just lose. Fear is a fundamental part of human psychology. Our brains are wired to feel fear because it helps us avoid calamity and it keeps us safe. But fear can also hold us back if we let it. The more we try to avoid something we're afraid of, the bigger and deeper our anxiety grows. And to overcome this, we each must face our deep-seated misgivings and our worries. We must acknowledge our fears and find some way to get beyond them, to move beyond them. Here's a list of our top fears from our friends over at entrepreneur.com. Number 1 is just simply the fear of change. Change of any sort can be very frightening. In fact, our brains are pre-programmed to avoid it. It's natural to seek a comfortable, secure existence. We like those comfort zones like we've talked before. We resist change when it poses a threat to our status quo. But complacency can keep us from acting and moving forward. Number 2, the fear of failure. Failure often seems like the worst of all possibilities. When we think of failure, we think of unbearable embarrassment and the anguish of losing everything. But fear of failure is often rooted in our own personal pride. We don't like to lose. I can tell you from massive experience that failure is the foundation of success. I believe that if you asked a successful business person about how they built their company, you'll hear stories about how they had to overcome failures and setbacks and being discouraged and disappointed. If we fail, we believe that all those who doubted us will have been right. Instead, ask yourself these 2 things. 10 years from now, will you regret not taking this opportunity? And if you do fail, what's the worst that happens? Number 3, fear that you don't know enough. We call this the imposter syndrome. It may sound silly, but you don't know what you don't know. We all have gaps in our knowledge and blind spots in our business acumen, and most of the successful people that I know make daily efforts to get better at whatever it is they do. If you're worried about missing areas of information or expertise, just start working to rectify the situation today. It's really simple. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Find a mentor and find resources that will help you fill in your blind spots. You can seek feedback from others at each step of the way, but don't allow fear to cause you to constantly second-guess yourself. You got to have the confidence in yourself and trust your gut instinct. Number 4 is the fear of the unknown. Uncertainty registers in our brain like a blaring alarm clock. We often avoid the unknown because we fear change. We're afraid of losing control and being unable to manage potential outcomes. Allowing yourself to take a massive leap into the unknown is terrifying because we have no guarantees of how things will turn out. It's like walking into a dark room that you've never been in before. You don't know if you're going to be tripping on something, running into something, or have a Sasquatch suddenly pop out from behind the wall and say, "Boo." When you understand what drives success in your business and you feel confident in your business model, you'll feel more assured when you step into this unknown territory. Number 5, fear of committing to business expenses. It's one thing to dream big, develop a business plan, and set goals and objectives. It's another to put your finances or your savings on the line and incur large business expenses. But here's the thing. There's almost no way you can move forward without putting a little bit of money into it. Even a low overhead, low cost business will eventually need an infusion of some funds so you can market yourself, develop a professional looking website, or invest in office equipment such as a computer. Yeah, committing expenses is a risk, but unless you're willing to invest in your dream, your business will quickly plateau. Number 6, fear of taking risks. Every time we risk something, we're putting ourselves, our business, and our reputation on the line. A risk can pay off with amazing success, or it can lead to a downward spiral and failure. But there is an important difference between dangerous, unmitigated risk and thoughtful, calculated, measured risk. Smart entrepreneurs take measured risks. Dangerous risk takers are like gamblers, betting it all on something that isn't proven. With a calculated risk, you have strategized each step of the way. and you move incrementally towards your goal, carefully assessing your level of investment and overhead until you're assured your business will support more. So calculated risks are key to every success. Number 7, fear of disappointing and letting down others. Nobody wants to let their people down. Who doesn't want to impress their friends and colleagues or loved ones? We want to live up to these expectations, but as an entrepreneur, you're going to have to carve your own path. You must focus your time and energy on the things that matter to you. If you don't go after your dreams, pursue your goals, and build a life you're passionate about, you're letting yourself down. Decide what your purpose is and then go after it. Don't push aside your own ambitions in the quest to keep everyone else happy. Number 8, fear of being pushed into uncomfortable situations. Many people fear public speaking more than death itself. Just the thought of it puts us on edge and makes us anxious because public speaking can be incredibly nerve-wracking. With practice, however, we can become comfortable pushing ourselves outside our comfort zones. But it won't happen without getting into the right mindset and preparing to take this challenge. Just like climbing a mountain or going skydiving, you wouldn't do it without working yourself up to it first. You can start by taking small steps, doing things just outside of your comfort zone, baby steps. Allow yourself to become familiar with the discomfort. And before long, you'll be able to embrace new situations without dread and distress. Number 9, fear of being wrong. Most business people are competitive by nature, so it makes sense that many of us would fear making mistakes or seeming less than perfect. Overcoming this fear requires you to tackle your ingrained sense of perfectionism and learn to be comfortable with the fact that everyone, even you, will be wrong sometimes. It's important to recognize that mistakes happen because we did something. We took action. We made a leap. Maybe it was a misstep, but making a mistake is better than doing nothing at all. That only leads to indecision and stagnation. Don't beat yourself up when you make a mistake. Recalculate, keep pressing on. And number 10, fear that you're not good enough. Self-doubt can be a mountain to overcome. We know our flaws and our shortcomings better than anyone. Sometimes a dark fear lingers in the back of our minds. What if I'm not good enough? For some people, this becomes a deeply embedded fear that they're not as competent as anyone else, and they feel no matter how hard they work, they will always be inadequate. This is called the imposter syndrome, and this hot mess of harmful anxiety can set up a vicious cycle of questioning your abilities and constantly striving for unattainable levels of perfectionism. Take steps to move past these feelings. Don't let the internal fears hold you back from pursuing your goals. Now, throughout history, wars have been won and lost by many nations, many types of people. Some wars were fought because of differences in religious beliefs. Others fought over territorial disputes, and still others because of overinflated egos of their leaders. Regardless of the reasons why people fight wars, it's a given that the winner was aware of the opponent's strengths and weaknesses and was able to adapt their battle plan in order to effectively compete. And as we just discussed, one of our biggest fears is the fear of competition, and it doesn't matter what you do, it's everywhere. Competition is vital to your success, whether you realize it or not. It requires you to constantly adjust, analyze, and adapt your own business plan to a changing market. Those who react the most effectively are the ones who end up on top, while those who don't react end up in a different industry. On the flip side, we are all charged with the responsibility to both introduce new customers and to educate them about our respective niches. In this respect, you're on the same team as every one of your competitors, but that's where the friendly competition ends. Beyond that, the consumer is the battlefield, and the name of the game is survival of the fittest. You're in business to generate profits and provide for your lifestyle choices, just like your competitors. If I asked you to list 3 strengths and weaknesses of your biggest competitors, would you be able to do that? Most of us are acutely aware of our own strengths, but won't admit any glaring weaknesses. That's just human nature. In business, however, you must be able to identify the good and bad in our own enterprise as well as others. Here's a fun suggestion, at least to me. One of the easiest ways to learn about your competition is to give them a call and just set up a meeting with them. Just sit down and chat with them about challenges, their struggles, their vision. Be willing to share yours as well. There's no rule that says you can't get along with or be friendly with your competitors. Remember that we're all on the same team, and it's important to help each other. You don't have to give away trade secrets, but you may find that you can help each other in many other ways. Remember, the goal in marketing is not to have your competitors fail, but rather to increase your chances of succeeding. It's important to mention that not everyone can have the same strengths and be best in all categories. But to maximize your position in the market, you need to be top in at least one category. Which one? Well, that's up to you to figure out and decide. What is it that you do better than anyone else? Well, to many companies, they've tied this little answer up into a package called a slogan. Here's a little exercise that will show you the incredible power of a good and simple slogan. See if you can identify the companies behind each one. And I want you to be thinking about what position in the marketplace you occupy and what your biggest strength is. Okay, just do it. Well, that's Nike. They want to sell to people who take action in their lives. Nothing runs like a deer. Well, that's obviously John Deere. But what the meaning is that they make high-quality products. It runs like a deer. From sharp minds come sharp products. That's Sharp Electronics. They make you believe that their products are for people who consider themselves intelligent or smarter than others. You're in good hands. That's Allstate Insurance. They want us to believe they will take better care of us than their competitors. Have it your way. It's Burger King. You can have a Whopper without onions if you want. And here's a slogan I believe was at the beginning of the right now culture in America. Fresh, hot pizza delivered in 30 minutes or less, guaranteed. Well, that's Domino's Pizza. They don't make that claim anymore for many reasons, but for years, they owned that category. Even though all the other pizza chains made deliveries as well, Domino's was known as the 30 minutes or less. If you were in a hurry, guess who you called? Domino's. And they dominated that for many, many years. Do you have a slogan or a tagline for your business? Can you summarize your biggest strength and your marketing message and what position you occupy in one sentence? Creating an effective marketing slogan will require some thinking on your part. It doesn't have to be complicated, but it should communicate who you are and what you want the market to know about you, your biggest strength. Spend some quiet time putting together some ideas on what your slogan can be. And if you already have one, maybe you can think about some ways that you can improve on it. There's nothing wrong with changing or updating your slogan as your business grows and changes in this ever-evolving world. Nothing wrong with that at all. Hi there, this is Mitch Graff, the host of Business Edge Radio. Would you do me a couple of very big favors? First, I invite you to subscribe, rate, and review the show on iTunes. This will help other forward thinkers just like you discover the show. Second, I ask that you share this show on your social media platforms. And third, I would love it if you connected with us on social at Unleashed Tribe on Facebook and Instagram, or log on to powermarketing101.com to find more great resources. If you could do this for me, you would be a superhero in my book, and I would be eternally grateful. I bet you have some incredible stories about great customer service you've gotten, and also stories of terrible service you received over the years. Fans, I have a special invitation for you. I am currently writing a new book titled Customer Service is Dead, giving 6-star service in a 1-star world that will be released later this year. What I'm looking for are your stories and examples of the good, the bad, and the ugly. And if your story is chosen for publication, you will receive a copy from the first printing, as well as your story being read on the air on a future show. Simply send us your story of no more than 500 words to info@powermarketing101.com. That's info@powermarketing101.com by July 31st, and hopefully your story makes it in my new book, Customer Service is Dead, giving 6-star service in a 1-star world. Have fun with it, make it entertaining, and give me your good, bad, and ugly stories about customer service you've received. Give me your best shot and make me proud. Since 1928, when Steamboat Willie was debuted, the Walt Disney Company has always stood for excellence. Whether it's the newest employee, they call them cast members, or one with over 40 years of experience, all the employees are passionate about making magic happen. Walt Disney and Mickey Mouse are probably the most widely recognized names in the world, and the mere mention of their names creates a spark to our imagination and brings a smile to our faces. Over the past 100+ years, there's been themes like Remember the Magic and 100 Years of Magic and Where Magic Lives. My guess is that every single person listening to this show has memories of when you were a kid, watching a Disney movie or going to one of the amusement parks or reading a book, and that magical feeling comes all over our bodies. My family took a trip down to Southern California a couple of years ago, and the look on my, at the time, 4-year-old daughter's face when she saw Cinderella and then Cinderella actually talked to her is something that I will remember for the rest of my days, and she still remembers it because she talks about it on a regular basis. Whenever we're reading a book on Cinderella or there's a TV commercial, she reminds me that I know her, you know. When those moments happen, it makes everything else not quite so important. My book review today is on Be Our Guest, Perfecting the Art of Customer Service, which is put together by the Disney Institute, which is the global professional training arm of Walt Disney Corporation. One of the most recognized names in professional development, the Institute travels the world offering engaging seminars and workshops as well as customized programming. The book gives you kind of a behind-the-scenes glimpse of how their business theory drives their operational excellence. Walt's fundamentals for success still ring true today. You build the best product you can, you give people effective training to support the delivery of exceptional service, you learn from your experiences, you celebrate success, you never stop growing, you never stop believing. And he also believed that no organization can succeed without a great workforce. We all must satisfy our guests, or our customers, or our clients, and convince them to return and recommend us to others, which is how any business grows organically over time. Walt called it guestology, meaning the art and science of knowing and understanding your customers. Customers want memorable experiences, and quality service means exceeding your guests' expectations by paying attention to every detail of the delivery of your products and services. Did you know that at any of their theme parks, they have cast members, employees, whose only job is to go around and pick up every single piece of trash, even as small as a nutshell? Sometimes it's the things that you don't notice that make the biggest difference. If there was trash all around, like you might see in other locations, you would definitely notice it. But the absence of trash is something that doesn't typically register in our brains, but it does make a tremendous difference in our overall experience. If the little wows are delivered consistently and continuously, they add up to one big wow. Building culture is not a science. In fact, it's a mysterious process that, when done well, can unite the energy and emotions of an entire workforce into a laser-like focus. Some of the chapters include topics like how to understand your customers, how to treat them, what's the Walt Disney way, training your cast to be mindful of the customer, first impressions, appealing to all 5 senses, and the key elements of creating magical service moments. A couple of key takeaways: make exceeding expectations the standard call of duty for your workforce and your business culture. Be mindful that everything speaks, everything, and it all has the potential to either inflict damage on your brand or it can help you build your brand. And here's one of my favorite quotes in the book. You don't build it for yourself. You know what people want, and you build it for them. It's a fascinating book that will help you look at how your business can provide the best possible customer experience. You can find this book, as well as many other great reads, at powermarketing101.com/hotlist. That's powermarketing101.com/hotlist. For all the listeners of Business Edge Radio, I have a special gift for you. I want to give you a free copy of my book, High Voltage Branding, Go From Ordinary to Extraordinary, as my way of saying thank you for being a loyal listener. The book covers the most important elements of how to develop a great brand, build a loyal fan base for your products and services, and ways to identify if your brand is broke. Whether you're an old-timer or have a new business venture, having an impeccable brand is vital to your success. And this book will give you lots to think about. Simply go to powermarketing101.com/free book. That's powermarketing101.com/free book to download your free copy of the book High Voltage Branding, Go From Ordinary to Extraordinary, as my special way of saying thanks for being a fan of the show.
Now it's time for stories from the field. The great, the good, and the terrible.
Each week, I will bring you stories that will either put a smile on your face or will make you cringe. And today, I'm going to share with you a couple of each. First, the great. The belief that you should do your best to make things right with customers in tough situations is a recurring theme among those companies with legendary customer service. That said, even the greats of customer service will have a hard time topping this next story. Bungie Studios, one of the most beloved game developers in the industry, raised the bar with their willingness to take care of their fans. The story begins with a distraught father whose son had to receive a liver transplant surgery around the holidays. Since being in the hospital left his son unable to play the newest release of his favorite video game, Halo, his dad reached out to Bungie. The response he received from the company went far beyond what anyone expected. First, the entire Bungie team signed and sent a card with get well wishes. To make up for missing out on playing Halo, the team built a custom helmet based off the main character and sent it along with shirts, toys, and custom art from the game's designers. His father later posted a thank you thread and a collection of images on Christmas Day, which is when Bungie visited his son in the hospital and brought the gifts. He was absolutely shocked when he saw the custom helmet from Halo. Bungie, you've played a huge part in making my son smile. My family can't thank you enough, he wrote. That should put a smile on your face and warm your heart. Another example of excellent customer service is from the Gaylord Opryland Hotel. It doesn't take a slew of consumer data to support the argument that your regular customers are your rock. As such, taking care of them is not just the right thing to do, it's also good for business. Consider the case of regular Gaylord Opryland Hotel customer Christina, who stayed at the resort for 3 years in a row for an annual conference. During each stay, she found herself mesmerized by one of the features in her hotel room. An alarm clock that played light music, as in the kind that you'd experience in a high-end spa. She loved the clock radio. She had never slept better than she did when she was using it. For 3 years, she tried to find the exact model clock from her hotel room, but to no avail. She'd nearly given up hope when she messaged the company on Twitter saying, "Where can I buy this sharper image clock radio in my room? None in stores have the spa sound, and I've never slept better." They responded, "Unfortunately, our version isn't available to the public, but here's a sharper image alarm clock like it," and they gave a link to another alarm clock. She responded, "Yeah, that one doesn't have the spa sound. Been looking for it after loving the one in my room for 3 years now at my conference." Resigned to her fate, she attended the conference the following year, and when she got to her room, she found not one, but 2 alarm clocks sitting next to her bed with a note that read, "Thanks for following us on Twitter. We hope you enjoy these spa sounds at home and enjoy your stay." And the note was signed by the entire management staff. Opryland recognized an opportunity to make sure a long-time customer had one of the best experiences ever. And they didn't just win a customer for life, they also bought plenty of goodwill with folks at the conference and beyond who consequently heard about the story. A little reminder of the Walt Disney philosophy: guests may not always be right, but they're always our guests. Now a couple of cringe-worthy stories. First, Walmart's pricing blunder. Imagine that you walk into your local Walmart and see a Lego set that you want to buy for your kid. You notice that the item at the store costs 35% more than the exact same Lego set on Walmart's website. That's exactly what happened to a gentleman named Clark. But when he asked the team to meet their company's online price, Walmart refused to price match. So he pulled up his phone and ordered the product online for in-store pickup. He says, "My son and I stood there and watched as a different employee came a few minutes later, picked up the item off the shelf, and brought it back to the holding spot for me to pick up. Because he didn't receive the email confirmation from Walmart until the following day, he couldn't pick it up until then. So he had to go back in the store the following day, which was inconvenient to say the least." Although Walmart doesn't require that store managers match online prices, it would have been the best and only response in this scenario. The takeaway: when companies prioritize a policy above the needs of a customer, it can show. The golden rule: treat others the way that you want to be treated. That should trump any protocol. If you're not sure how to respond in a scenario, think about what's the kindest, most honest thing that you can do. This overarching ethos can easily prevent bad customer service stories like this from happening on your watch. Here's another cringeworthy story, this one from Comcast. There's a lot of reasons not to like cable providers. You always have to argue for a fair rate, and most of the time you don't get what you need. But even in this not-so-helpful industry, Comcast is considered America's most despised company. In 2015, Comcast apologized after hitting an all-time low. One of their customer service reps changed a customer's name from Ricardo Brown to A blank blank hole Brown on the official account when his wife wouldn't renew their cable contract. Although Comcast leaders apologized to the customers and offered a little bit of a refund, the incident made huge waves. Because so many people can relate to this frustration, the story resonated with millions and millions of people. The takeaway: this bad customer service example is emblematic of a work culture where employees can get fed up, so much so that they're willing to sacrifice their own jobs to make a point or to get a laugh. The best way to cultivate an empathetic customer service team is to treat the team with empathy as well. This sense of shared appreciation and respect will naturally extend your customers. If you have a story that either shows impeccable customer service or cringeworthy service, send us your story that is 500 words or less to info@powermarketing101.com. And if we read your story on the air, I'll send you a copy of my new paperback, High Voltage Branding. Go from ordinary to extraordinary as my way of saying thanks. While side hustles start on the side, they don't always stay there. After all, the driving forces that inspire side gigging are many, from meeting an economic need or practicing a unique skill to testing a burning idea or exploring an individual passion. Each week, I will bring you examples of people who started a side hustle, and in every case, the side hustle became successful enough to scale into a full-blown business. Regardless of what inspires a hustler to start working on the side, with the right approach, what starts as a hustle could turn into a very lucrative career. Here's some side hustle examples from our friend Chris Guillebeau over at Side Hustle School. Professional magician Will Roya began performing magic gigs in college and then graduated to his own stage show in Las Vegas. But he has since replaced pulling rabbits from hats with pulling big sales from his own playing card e-commerce business. What is now home to over 1,500 card deck designs and other merchandise started when Roya was still performing magic. His first foray into sales came when he sold instructional DVDs after his magic shows. "I knew there was a market for good instructional videos," Roya said. This was before the popularity of YouTube. But Roya's side hustle went through several transformations. What started with selling instructional DVDs for magicians expanded when he began selling his wares on eBay. And before long, his side hustle became his full-time gig. With only one full-time employee to handle the shipments and several freelancers to help, His site processes now more than 2,000 orders a month and generates in excess of $1 million a year in gross revenues. For prospective side hustlers seeking advice, he suggests finding something that can scale and make money in your sleep. Great customer service, he adds, is probably the biggest factor to his success. Make a plan and stick to it, he says. If you really want to be successful, I would say focus on one thing until the concept is proven, then expand. Next example is exploding kittens. I just want everyone to know that no animals or kittens were harmed in the making of this segment. Elon Lee has made a name for himself in the Kickstarter universe. He entered the workforce cleaning up after dogs at a pet store, went to work for Microsoft as a lead video game designer, and later helped create the 9th most funded Kickstarter campaign to date. Nearly 220,000 backers pledged over $8.7 million to breathe life into this project. He describes it as a card game for people who are into kittens and explosions and laser beams and sometimes goats. It was listed with a $10,000 funding goal. We hit that number in 7 minutes. We hit about $1 million in 2 hours. While many factors led Lee down the path to designing a card game, he said the most influential one came to him during a visit to his brother's house. He has 2 kids. I walk in the door, they're both in the living room playing a video game on the Xbox. When I walked in, neither one of them looked up to say hello. Here's the ironic part. They both were playing a video game that Lee helped create when he worked at Microsoft. They were in the room with me and each other, their mom was in the room too, and none of them were talking to each other. It was like they were isolated and lonely in a room full of people, and it felt terrible. I needed to do something to bring people together and celebrate each other instead of staring at screens. But what is now Exploding Kittens started as Bomb Squad. Lee had a friend who also worked at Microsoft, came up with the idea for a mobile game based on Russian roulette. After building a paper prototype, Lee and his friend realized not only the game had legs, but that it would work better as a card game. So they both left Microsoft at the same time, determined to solve the problem of getting people away from screens. They decided to put their idea on Kickstarter while they looked for their next jobs. But sometime before that, a cartoonist and creator of the webcomic site The Oatmeal got involved. Inman drew the illustrations for the cards and suggested replacing bombs with the now iconic exploding kittens. Matt literally drew all the cards in about 2 weeks, and we put them on Kickstarter probably a week after that. Between the time the game was invented and the team was formed, it probably was up on Kickstarter for no more than 3 weeks. And they didn't have to spend a single cent. It took about an hour after launching the campaign for Lee to realize what was originally a side project had just become his new full-time job. Exploding Kittens hasn't stopped creating since, releasing other critically acclaimed games like Bears vs. Babies, You've Got Crabs, on a scale of 1 to T-Rex, Throw Burrito, in addition to expansion packs for the game that started it all. On a daily basis, they sell between 2,000 and 3,000 games. Lee says it's so flattering and it's so incredible to think that this thing that we built really intended to be a small diversion because it brought us joy. Now it's bringing many people joy. What started out as a 3-man team working out of Lee's garage has scaled to a 25-person team working in a full-blown studio, selling somewhere close to 9 million games across all titles, including Exploding Kittens. And if that wasn't enough, Lee said the team rented the entire Portland Convention Center the next year for the first Burning Cat, a game-packed convention for attendees to play, learn, and connect with like-minded people. The only rule? No screens allowed. When you look closely at all your big ideas, your inventions, your passions, and you start to form a clear picture of what they might look like when they come together, you must also make room for another thought. You're never going to know if any of those ideas are worth anything unless you try to build them. And the actual barriers to getting started are much less scary in reality than the versions in our heads.
Here's my email address.
Use the email.
Email.
We get your mail. Let's dive into Mitch's mailbag and answer some of your burning questions.
We have some wonderful questions today that have been coming into our email this week. Let's see what we have. First email comes from Allison in Buffalo, New York. She writes, Mitch, we've been enjoying your show on Saturdays and have been loving your 24/7 lifestyle idea. My son and I live together and currently have 2 full-time jobs out of the home, but would like to purchase a small bed and breakfast that is outside of town and split up the responsibilities of running it on a day-to-day basis. I've been thinking about how I can make my living working only 24 hours a week, 7 months a year, then not working the rest of the time. What I find is that even though I might not ever be able to get to that number, the concept keeps me wanting to find ways of working smarter. I will let you know how things go and if we decide to purchase the bed and breakfast. Well, Allison, thanks for the email. I appreciate the fact that you are trying to incorporate the 24/7 mentality into your own personal lifestyle. And just to remind people what this is about, the traditional definition of a 24/7 means 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, keeping your nose to the grindstone all the time, never letting up, forsaking all things in order to make your venture successful. And let me ask you a question, and it doesn't matter what you do for a living. If there was a way that you can get all your work done, whatever was required of you, working more efficiently with a laser beam focus by working 24 hours a week, 7 months a year, and the rest of the time you'd be free to do whatever you wanted to do, would that lifestyle be of interest to you? In my experience, everyone answers a big, fat, emphatic yes to that question. Here's a couple of thoughts on this subject, Allison. The 24/7 lifestyle is a philosophy more than it's something that you want to try to attain 100%. Just having that as your shining beacon on the hill is enough to improve the quality of your life. Even if you become more efficient with your daily duties and learn to eliminate your wasted motions, even if you can only free up an hour a day to do what you wanted, 5 hours a week, would that have the potential to revolutionize your entire life? You bet. If we all can simply learn to constantly analyze and evaluate what activities make up our days, we would find that there is actually quite a bit of excess energy that is expended that gives us very little or no return on our time investment. Typically, that percentage is around 80% of our activities brings us 20% of our results. So if you flip that around, 20% of our efforts brings us 80% of the results. We need to focus on getting rid of those near zero return activities. And that frees up time that we can reinvest into the top 20% of our activities that brings us the 80%. And if we can do that, the 24/7 lifestyle won't just be a beacon on the hill, but it will be your way of life. Allison, thanks for the thoughts and the update, and I look forward to hearing about what happens with that bed and breakfast. All right, this one is from Don and Mary in Houston, Texas. Don, D-A-W-N. Don and Mary in Houston, Texas. Mary writes, Hi, Mitch. We've had a string of bad reviews online for our small deli, and many of our good customers have stopped coming. The complaints are that we are too slow with getting orders out and that they don't feel that we care that things are slow. We have tried everything to get the orders done quickly, but it seems no matter what we do, it's not good enough. How should we deal with all the negative reviews that we are getting? Well, first of all, guys, I know it's difficult when something that you pour your heart and soul into starts to turn sour. It hurts, and it hurts bad. From a business standpoint, you are much better off having impeccable service and average products than you are having the worst service but the best products in the world. You're in a tough spot right now, and it's the reality that you're facing. You got 2 choices. First, you can simply do whatever you've been doing, and eventually you're going to go out of business. Or number 2, you can take this problem by the horns and actually turn it into a positive. And here's how I would go about doing that. First of all, you need to reach out and make personal contact with each person who has left you a negative review. Find out exactly what they found so disappointing that they felt inclined to write the review. Listen to them. Hopefully this can be on a phone call. Listen to them intently. Take notes. Let them know that you appreciate everything that they're telling you and that you appreciate their business. Let them know that you're going to be making corrections to the way things are and would love it if they would give you another chance to make things right. I would offer them a gift certificate to come and enjoy a couple of meals on you. Ask that they give you a little time to work on the issues, then move on to the next one. Continue doing this until you've reached out to every single one of those people that left you something negative. Next, you need to take that list of grievances back to your office, sit down with your management team, or the two of you, and analyze each and every one of them. You're going to need to look at all your systems, your front of house, your back of house, everything, and I do mean everything, needs to be broken down and then rebuilt with fewer moving pieces so that things are more efficient and smoother. If they can run faster and smoother with less chance of error, good things will happen. From what you've stated, it sounds like a lot of your issues are rooted in the service that you're providing. All that customers want from you, Mary, besides a nice meal, is to be appreciated and respected. Even if they must wait a little bit longer for their food, it's on you to let them know that you are aware that it's an inconvenience to them. And in most cases, just acknowledging their feelings will be enough to buy you some more time and patience from impatient customers. I can remember countless times that I've went out to eat at a restaurant and had to wait for a table or wait for my food. But if the staff showed that they're fully aware of the extra time that it was taking and would make sure they stayed in touch with me, bringing me baskets of chips and salsa or bread and cheese, that wait became a little more bearable. The times that the staff didn't communicate with me, those restaurants didn't get me back again. And this comes down to the training of your staff. They must, above all else, put your customers' needs ahead of everything else on their duties list. This applies to your cooks in the back, your preppers, your servers, your cashier. Everyone must have a sense of urgency about getting those orders out as fast as they can so that these types of issues don't continue to happen. And remember that your customers' perceptions are your reality. Whether or not you agree with what they say, the customer is always right, even when they're not, if that makes sense. And next, once you've rebuilt your systems and retrained your staff, I want you to make a point of soliciting feedback at all times. Having a feedback loop is something that all businesses need to have in place so that they can keep the thumb on the pulse of how things are going. Maybe put a comments box by the register with survey forms on the tables, and you can give a special little something for everyone who fills one out, maybe a free beverage or a piece of pie or a cookie. Spend time each week going over them, making sure to incorporate the suggestions that have relevance and that will also improve that customer experience. Over time, you will see a mindset shift in your customer base. I would also reach out again to every bad review, let them know that you've made some positive changes, invite them back to see you again. You might just be surprised that some of these bad reviews turn into some of your best customers if done correctly. Customers are always right, even when they're wrong. All right, next email is from Lisa from, I don't know where from. We'll call her from, I don't knowsville. Anyways, she writes, how do you determine what to charge for a product that is homemade or handmade? I bought a bunch of soap making materials at an auction and would like to go into business making soap. We have several farmers markets and shows in my local area where I could sell them. I also think I could sell them to several of my friends and family. Lisa, great question. And the equation is much easier than you are probably thinking. You don't need to complicate things too much here at the very beginning. First of all, you need to assign a cost to each of the ingredients that go into making a bar of soap, whatever those are. I'm sure you have a recipe of sorts that you're going to be using. If you don't know the replacement costs of the items you purchase at the auction, do some research online and find out the hard cost of every single ingredient, okay? Then you're going to make a batch. And let's say you end up with a dozen bars. You end up with 12 bars. Add everything up, including whatever your packaging is going to be, whether it be a box or a band or a shrink wrap. Add up all your costs for the entire batch, divided by 12, and that gives you your cost for one bar. At the same time, I want you to track how much time it takes for you to make the entire batch, and that includes the time you spent sourcing out products and placing orders, packaging, all of it. Let's say it takes you 2 hours all in. Next step is for you to do some competitive research, find out what other soap companies in your market are charging, how big their bars are, how yours stacks up as far as packaging and fragrance, etc. And the final step is you will need to assign a value to your time. And I want you to remember that your time is the most valuable asset that you have. Now at the beginning, this is going to be a little bit flexible, but you need to assign a value to your time. So let's do some basic math here. I'm going to use round numbers just for example purposes. Let's say that you calculate that each batch costs $12 to make. That's $1 per bar. And let's also say that when you do your competitive analysis, you find that other soaps in your market are selling for $4 to $5 a bar for the same size. So if you charge $5 a bar, that's $60 in sales for the entire batch, less your hard cost of $12. So right now, at first glance, you are left with $48 of what is called gross margin, okay? If you assign a value for your time of $15 an hour, that's a total of $30. That would leave a profit of $18 before buying more product, investing in your packaging, etc. Now at the beginning, I recommend you not pay yourself at all until your business reaches critical mass where you can pull money out for yourself. This is very exciting, Lisa. Creation is, to me, the most enjoyable part of being in business for yourself. You have the ultimate say in what your product will look like, what it smells like, how much to charge for it, and how much you will get paid. And as you grow, you will learn so many valuable lessons on what to do, what not to do. I wish you all the luck in the world, Lisa, and thanks for the great question. If you have a question or a comment that you would like me to answer on the air, just send an email to info@powermarketing101.com and maybe I will read your email on the air. I bet you have some incredible stories about great customer service you've gotten and also stories of terrible service you received over the years. Fans, I have a special invitation for you. I am currently writing a new book titled Customer Service is Dead, giving 6-star service in a 1-star world that will be released later this year. What I'm looking for are your stories and examples of the good, the bad, and the ugly. And if your story is chosen for publication, you will receive a copy from the first printing, as well as your story being read on the air on a future show. Simply send us your story of no more than 500 words to info@powermarketing101.com. That's info@powermarketing101.com by July 31st, and hopefully your story makes it in my new book, Customer Service is Dead, giving 6-star service in a 1-star world. Have fun with it, make it entertaining, and give me your good, bad, and ugly stories about customer service you've received. Give me your best shot and make me proud. Hi there, this is Mitch Graff, the host of Business Edge Radio. Would you do me a couple of very big favors? First, I invite you to subscribe, rate, and review the show on iTunes. This will help other forward thinkers just like you discover the show. Second, I ask that you share this show on your social media platforms. And third, I would love it if you connected with us on social at Unleashed Tribe on Facebook and Instagram, or log on to powermarketing101.com to find more great resources. If you could do this for me, you would be a superhero in my book, and I would be eternally grateful. For all the listeners of Business Edge Radio, I have a special gift for you. I want to give you a free copy of my book, High Voltage Branding, Go From Ordinary to Extraordinary, as my way of saying thank you for being a loyal listener. The book covers the most important elements of how to develop a great brand, build a loyal fan base for your products and services, and ways to identify if your brand is broke. Whether you're an old-timer or have a new business venture, having an impeccable brand is vital to your success. And this book will give you lots to think about. Simply go to powermarketing101.com/free book. That's powermarketing101.com/free book to download your free copy of the book High Voltage Branding, Go From Ordinary to Extraordinary, as my special way of saying thanks for being a fan of the show.
Time for Cooking Corner with Mitch. Yum!
Now it is time for Cooking Corner with a guy named Mitch, where I share with you a tantalizing recipe that you can try at home this week. Tell me how this description sounds to you of the recipe for today. It's gluten-free, low-calorie, has complete proteins, it boosts your metabolism, high in fiber, iron, potassium, magnesium. Doesn't that just make you want to eat this up by the spoonful? Well, the good news is you can, because today we are making Mediterranean Quinoa Salad. You know, quinoa has come a long way, all the way from the back shelves of health food stores to national supermarket aisles. The delicate texture has made quinoa a popular substitute for starchier pasta and rice. Although once you try it, you're not likely to use the word substitute ever again. Quinoa is an easy grain to fall in love with. It's been called the mother grain and the gold of the Incas. Technically, it's not a grain but a seed, although it's used in virtually all the same ways as whole grains. All right, first step, as always, grab yourself a nice beverage, put an apron on, turn on some beautiful music, and join me in the kitchen. So here's the ingredients you're going to combine in a large bowl. 1 cup of grape tomatoes, cut in half, or you can mince up a large regular tomato. 1/4 cup of fresh dill, 1/4 cup of fresh mint, chopped up nicely, 1/2 cup of feta cheese, 1 English cucumber, or you can use a regular cuke as well, 3 to 4 green onions diced up, and if you like olives, you can add about 1/4 cup of Kalamata olives or just regular black olives. Mix everything until the ingredients are best friends and set aside for now. For your dressing, I want you to combine 1/3 cup of rice wine vinegar, 3 tablespoons of olive oil or whatever's in your cupboard, and salt and pepper to taste. Mix it up, set it aside. Now on preparing the quinoa itself. Quinoa has a natural coating called saponin that can make the cooked grain taste bitter or soapy. Luckily, it's easy to get rid of this coating by rinsing the quinoa just before cooking. Boxed quinoa is usually pre-rinsed, but it doesn't hurt to give the seeds an additional rinse at home. And here's how to cook great quinoa. Not mushy or bitter, but delicate and perfectly fluffy. First step, get a medium saucepan, turn on medium heat, add a couple of tablespoons of olive oil, and then add 2 cups of your drained quinoa. On medium heat, stir constantly. Let the water evaporate and toast up your quinoa. It just takes a couple of minutes. Add 3.5 cups of either water or broth and bring it to a rolling boil. Lower heat and cover for 15 minutes, then turn the heat down to the lowest setting. Let stand covered for another 5 minutes. Remove the pot from the heat. Let stand for 5 more minutes, covered. Don't peek, don't cheat. Then you fluff it, uncover it. You should see tiny spirals separating from and curling around the quinoa seeds. Fluff the quinoa gently with a fork and add the entire pan to your bowl of ingredients that you prepared before. Add your dressing, toss things around until you have a nice, fluffy, uniform bowl of goody goodness. Stick it in the fridge to cool it down, and it's ready to go. You can enjoy this as a cool, crisp side dish, or use it as your main course with a side of grilled chicken breast and some garlic bread. Give it a try. Let me know how it turns out. Well, that will do it for this edition of Business Edge Radio. My parting shot for today is this: everything you've ever wanted is on the other side of fear. George Adair. Until next time, this is Mitch Graff reminding you to live with passion. I'll catch you later.
Thanks for hanging out with Business Edge Radio. If you enjoyed today's show, we invite you to subscribe, rate, and review. Then hop on over to www.mitchgraff.com to get even more meat and potatoes. We also invite you to follow the show at facebook.com/Unleashed Tribe. The most valuable asset that any of us has is our time. And we thank you for choosing to spend some of your precious time with us.